And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to your RBLR Rays show on this Saturday postseason eve. With me is Pat. Pat, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm feeling a little nervous. It is that time where the butterflies start to form in your stomach. We now know a little bit more about what the coming week is going to look like for our Rays. We know that we are going to be the number 4 seed, and we're going to take on whoever ends up taking that number 5 seed in the wild card round. We know we're going to be doing it at home. Who that is, we're not quite sure yet. And we still have a few questions on how we are going to round out our roster and a couple of injury questions as well. So we got some things that we know, still some things we need to find out, but I'm looking forward to talking all about it today.
Absolutely. And if you out there listening want to hear all we have to say about all of this, please continue to like and subscribe. It's been awesome to see as we've started to grow on the YouTube channel. Be a part of that growth. The party has already started over there on YouTube. So come join it. We have a lot of fun things coming. Join the party over there, like, subscribe, share. Just continue to if you like our show or if you don't like our show, share it with your friends. Let them know, hey, this is something that you may want to be interested in. If there are Rays fans out there that are getting ready for the postseason and they're starting to get excited, share this episode because we're going to go over basically everything you need to know going into the start of the postseason. But before we get to the postseason, there is still some baseball left to be played in the regular season. So looking back over this last week, the division race kind of came to an end. Not kind of, it did come to an end and it's over. The Orioles have clinched the division. And now it's just kind of, we're kind of in a different mode of baseball, it appears. So Pat, what's your big takeaway from this last week of baseball?
I think that we are still a good baseball team. I know some people were concerned with the loss last night and the fact that we are currently, over the past week, we have lost 3 out of 4 games to the Blue Jays that we have played over the past week, which is a little concerning if they're going to be our opponent in the wild card series. But last night was a bit of an outlier. I heard it described a little bit like a spring training game, just everyone getting their reps in. It was an unusual pitching plan. We had Savali on the mound, and then we saw one time through the lineup for him, another time through the lineup from Littell. Bradley got an inning. Armstrong was in there for a little bit. That was a bit of a weird one and caused a few eyebrows to be raised across a lot of people. And I know you said last week, Zach, that this is the thing that you don't want to happen. You don't want to radically shift up the play style going down the stretch. You want to keep it business as usual, keep the mindset consistent, keep the routine consistent. How are you feeling about this kind of new in this series? We're going to be resting some guys. We're going to be kind of doing unusual pitching. It's looking like a bullpen day today.
I mean, do I understand why they're doing what they're doing? Yes, I do understand. I am fully aware of the IL situation and basically there's nothing to be gained or lost from a standings perspective on us winning or losing these games. Nothing's going to change. We are literally 10 games above everybody else in the playoffs except for the Orioles, and yet we're playing the wild card, which is just the nature of baseball. I don't want people to change it. I don't want to become the NBA necessarily, but it is frustrating. That being said, I don't like it. I don't. And the reason why I don't is because I do believe in momentum. I do believe in the way you're playing going into the postseason. And the biggest thing for me is, in a lot of other sports, when the regular season ends, you get a little bit of time to kind of reset and then lock in for the postseason. One day. That's all the Rays are going to get. When they play their last game on Sunday for the regular season, they will have one day to kind of reset and lock back in and the players that are playing their best. I have no doubt of that. Although maybe defensively they're not trying as hard as they could. But just to be clear, the players that are playing hard. I have no doubt about that. But from a perspective of, the intensity that we're playing with and the all or nothing, because they're definitely asking some of our, higher effort players to play with a little bit less effort just to prevent any further injuries. So to kind of switch that up and then lock back into the really high intensity type of baseball they were playing, like in the Baltimore series a couple weeks ago, is not necessarily an easy thing to do. And then you have 3 games. So if you got to lock back in one day to lock back in, and then you've got to go for those 3 games to win that series, to then get a chance to keep playing. It's just I don't like it because it's flipping that switch is kind of hit and miss. Who knows? Like there's no way to know if they're going to be able to flip that switch or not. I believe they can. I believe they will. My prediction for them to win the World Series has not changed. I've not changed my mind. But personally, if it was up to me, I would not adjust the way that we're playing. And I understand the reasoning because we're so injured right now. We really can't afford any more injuries. But also, like, sometimes when you're trying not to get hurt is when you get hurt. So I don't know. I don't really, there's not really any like statistics or like backup necessarily for what I'm saying. But for me, it just, for my feeling, I don't like, I don't like looking at a lineup or looking at a box score after the game and looking at the way we did the pitching and thinking we were not actively trying to win this game. We were trying to do other things. And I don't like whenever you're trying to not win a baseball game. I understand it happens from time to time. There's a lot of games. You can't win them all. I understand that. But the going into the game with the mindset of winning is not the most important thing bugs me, because then to flip that switch right back around to say, yes, all we care about is we're going to go pedal to the metal right here. That switch is not as easy to flip as it may sometimes seem. So I understand it, but I just don't love it.
Yeah, I want to say that you're absolutely on the money with that. It doesn't change our seeding at all, whether we win or lose, which is fine. We know we're the 4 seed, we know. But there's this weird gamble going on that is, if you dig a bit deeper into it, even more important than you may think in terms of playoff implications. The Blue Jays have not yet clinched a postseason spot.
Mm-hmm.
If they got swept by us this weekend, they could have very well been out of the postseason altogether. So what the Rays are kind of weighing up is this risk reward. They're going, right, the most important thing for us is that 1, we stay healthy so we don't play quite as hard and we don't leave our pitchers out there for very long. 2, there is a kind of trying to avoid the Blue Jays seeing our main pitchers as much as possible this weekend. Yep. So they realigned Eflin to pitch in the Red Sox series, so that he would not pitch against Toronto. And Glasnow also pitched in the Red Sox series, so he didn't have to see Toronto. And yesterday, all the guys that are, apart from Savali, are not going to be starting in the Toronto series either. Savali, again, one time through the lineup, get him out of there. This is important, I think, because, of course, familiarity makes hitters better in matchups. The more you see a pitcher, the better you're going to be playing against them. That's important, and I'm okay with that. But that is a concession on saying we're fine with facing the Blue Jays as our preferred opponent in the wild card series. That's what the trade-off is. And we're going to talk about if the Blue Jays are a preferred matchup. But if we played hard against the Blue Jays, we're potentially trying to push them out of that 5 spot and prefer to face the Mariners or Astros instead. And we're going to have that discussion on which matchup we'd prefer to have, if just from an outside perspective. But the Rays are kind of going, we're fine with the Blue Jays as long as we keep everyone healthy. So I don't particularly agree that should be how we approach things. I agree with having our pitchers avoid the Blue Jays, but I disagree with letting the Blue Jays win and lock up a postseason spot with an opponent we're familiar with and have poor form against over the past few weeks.
The other like wrinkle to this, to me, is when you look at the way this season is going to end for the Blue Jays, if they clinch before tomorrow, if they clinch today, at the moment, Gausman is theoretically on pace to pitch for tomorrow. And if the Rays win today, they kind of have to pitch him. If the Blue Jays do not clinch today, then they kind of have to pitch Gausman tomorrow because they have to win. If they clinch today, they don't have to pitch Gausman. They can do whatever they want, pretty much, and they probably won't, and they'll save him for the beginning of the series. So this game today actually is pretty important. And I'm glad you made that point because it made me go and check that out. Today's game is pretty important because if we do beat them today and they are not able to clinch, they are then forced to decide, do we risk putting an inferior pitcher out there and losing and potentially not making the postseason? Or do we pitch Gosman knowing that we are now not going to have him available for the wild card series? That's a big deal because Gosman is their best pitcher, and he's not like just their best pitcher. He's very good, and he's been very good all season. So to take Gosman out of the equation for the wild card would be a big deal. And right now, they're kind of set up to not have to throw him at the moment, and if they can clinch today. So today's game actually has a lot of implications, and that's a really good point because it could affect the rotation that we see in the postseason. Now, I know that Armstrong is slated to start today for the Rays, and Ryu is pitching for the Blue Jays. Ryu is probably not a guy they want to be pitching in the postseason necessarily. He's not been awesome this year. He's been injured and had kind of a rough season. So it would be great to force to win today's game and force Toronto's hand tomorrow, force them to make a decision. What they're going to do. But if they win today, then they kind of can make the decision whatever they want. So it could be interesting to see if even though, and the lineup I think will tell us a lot, even though they're trying to, rest guys and play and be smart, I'm curious to see if they are a little bit more aggressive today with the knowledge that if we win and Toronto and the Mariners and Houston win and prevent Toronto from clinching, then all of a sudden Toronto is now forced to pitch Gosman tomorrow. So I don't know. That's a very interesting part of this that still puts some serious intrigue into today's game.
Yeah, absolutely. And one final wrinkle to this whole thing, just for context, is the way that it stands is currently the Blue Jays do have a tiebreaker over the Astros if they end up tied, but the Mariners have a tiebreaker over the Blue Jays, and the Astros have a tiebreaker over the Mariners right now, I think. So it's almost like they all cancel each other out tiebreaker-wise. It's really weird. So it could go a whole host of different ways right now. Let's break down our playoff opponents and see how well we match up against them, who we should be scared of, who's notable, game plan, matchups. And let's start with that most likely opponent. Let's start with the Blue Jays, who we are currently facing right now. Zach, you've got a bit of info on that.
I do, yes. So the Blue Jays are by far our most likely opponent in the wild card round. It seems to me also that as another wrinkle of what you talked about, it almost feels like we're scouting them a little bit for over these next couple of days because the likelihood is that we do play them. The Blue Jays have a record of 88-71 over this season. Home, they have a .532 winning percentage. Away, a .568 winning percentage. So they're good on the road, which is that's interesting to look at as we are moving into the postseason, and they're going to be coming to the Trop. They are also have a .556 winning percentage in one-run games, which is, I think, an interesting statistic to look at for the postseason, where you're probably going to have some close games. They have been around .500 in one-run games, so it's not like they're amazing in one-run games, but they're also not horrible. So they're kind of middle of the road. Versus the Rays, they're 6-5. It's obviously been skewed by some. If you look at things like the run differential, very skewed by a couple of bad games that the Rays punted on the 20 to whatever game earlier in this year. Really skewed the run differential a lot. I think that the Blue Jays have not gotten the Rays fastball either time the last two times they played them because even a couple days ago when we played them, that we were dealing with even more injuries. So, I think they've also kind of gotten the worst of the Rays in some ways. From a lineup perspective, some guys that we want to be on the lookout for, they're going to line up kind of in this general way. They're going to have George Springer in right, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to play first. They're going to have Whit Merrifield probably at second base. Davis Schneider is also an option. He's been slumping really badly. Be interesting to see if he makes another appearance. At shortstop, they're going to put Bo Bichette out there for the most part. Matt Chapman is going to play a lot of third. Left field is going to be, for the most part, Dalton Varsho, or again, there's going to be some utility with Kevon Biggio is their utility guy. You're going to see a lot of him. You're going to see Alejandro Kirk at the catching spot. Danny Jansen is the other name that you may know from the Blue Jays catching spot. He is currently injured. We're not sure if nobody knows. I haven't really been able to find any information on if he's going to be back for the postseason. Doesn't seem super likely. There hasn't been a lot of updates on him recently. Tyler Heineman is their other catcher. Kirk is going to get the majority of the at bats for the postseason, most likely. Probably not going to see a whole lot of Heineman. A familiar face in center with KK playing center field for them, and then Brandon Belt is going to be their DH for the most part. He'll play occasionally in the field, but he's going to mostly DH, and that's the majority of who we're going to face. There's a couple other guys who may get some at bats. Cam Eden is up with them right now too. We may see him a little bit, but the majority of what we're going to see is the guys I just mentioned. When you look at that lineup, the biggest threats in that lineup, in my opinion, are George Springer, Brandon Belt, Bo Bichette, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Those are your four guys that you're scared of. The guy that I'm the most scared of, the only guy that I'm really actually scared of, is George Springer. And the reason for that is because of all the guys on this team, he is the one who's been there before. He's been in the postseason. And in the postseason, he has performed incredibly well. For this season, he has about a 103 WRC plus. Not nothing great. His career WRC plus is a 130. Take a guess what you think his postseason WRC plus is for his career.
Oh, I remember in that 2017 run and that 2019 run, he was really, really good. 170.
That's not quite that high, but he's a 139 WRC plus for the postseason.
That's still really good.
It's still really good because generally speaking, what you see almost across the board is players tend to be a little bit worse in the postseason, mostly because of the small sample size. Not so with Springer. His WRC plus is a 139, as I just said. That's higher than his career WRC plus. He has a career 839 OPS as well, and an 889 OPS for the postseason. So he plays better. He plays, not only does he not, play worse in the postseason. A lot of times when you talk about guys playing in the postseason, you say, I just want you to play the same. That's like we talk about guys like Derek Jeter, other sports like Tom Brady. They play the same in the postseason, and that's what makes them great. George Springer is better in the postseason than he is during the regular season. So you can throw out whatever he's done during the regular season. He's a threat come the postseason. He is the guy that if you're looking for a target, or we cannot let this guy beat us, that is the guy. That is the guy who's going to get if he's coming up in a late inning, he's going to get our best relievers. And he's going to be the guy where he's going to get Glasnow's nastiest pitches and Eflin's nastiest pitches. He is the guy to be concerned about. The other guys are Brandon Belt is another guy who's a threat, mostly because he's a lefty, and all of our starters are set up to be righties for the series so far. So that puts him at kind of an advantage. We're going to see a lot of him. He's probably going to start all 3 games if we need to play 3, or if we just play 2, he's going to start both games. Hopefully we'll only play 2. That'd be great if we'll only play 2. But he's probably he's their biggest left-handed threat. They don't have a whole lot of left-handed bats in their lineup. Let's see if I can count them. I meant to count them before this. What is that? 2 or 3. They have KK, Belt, Biggio. That's it. That's all I got for left-handed bats. So KK has had a nice season. He's got a 109 WRC plus on the season. He's having a pretty good season. Or was it 105? 105 WRC plus on the season. He's having a pretty good year for him. But really, he's going to play defense. He's going to steal. We know this. He's not a huge offensive threat. The other 2 big offensive threats are kind of the young core of this Toronto Blue Jays team, and that's Vladimir Guerrero and Bo Bichette. Vladimir Guerrero has had what I would say is probably a subpar season for his standards. He's sitting at a 117 WRC plus, 786 OPS. The OPS is a little bit lower than he probably is to his expectations. I would imagine Blue Jays expectations. He's still producing from a numbers perspective. He's got 26 home runs, 94 RBI. So he's still producing kind of from that perspective, but he's having a quote unquote down year in the same way Juan Soto is having a down year. He's still very good. He's still a threat. He's still somebody you need to watch out for. The other guy, and as much as, Vladimir Guerrero is someone to be concerned about, I'm actually sort of more concerned about Bo Bichette because he seems to
Me
be a
too.
Rays killer. And if I have to watch another away fastball or away changeup get thrown to him that he just slaps through the hole the other way, I think I might lose my mind because they just keep. I don't understand this. That's the one thing I'm like, can we please stop pitching Bo Bichette away? Please, I'm begging you, because he just waits for it and just slaps it the other way for a base hit. And he does it. He did it like twice last night. And I'm like, why are we like? I don't want to see a single outside pitch to him all series. I want to pound him inside every single time. Make him do something with that because he clearly is comfortable with reaching out there and slapping that ball out into right field. And he just does it so often, and he's kind of a Rays killer. He's having a good season, 121 WRC plus 821 OPS, 20 home runs, 71 RBIs, having a nice season. He's also a little bit of a threat to steal. His defense is okay. He's still kind of just okay defensively. But he's kind of the other guy that I'm really concerned about. When you go to the pitching side of things, this is where I feel like, there's some opportunity for the Rays to take advantage of, and that's in their rotation. This is sort of what we talked about with, Gosman's their biggest threat. The rotation is probably going to line up, if they don't have to pitch Gosman, it's going to line up Gosman, Barrios, Bassett, probably in that order. Kikuchi's available. Kikuchi as a left-hander is available. Maybe for game 3, he just pitched last night, so maybe they could pitch him on short rest to pitch in that last game. But they probably don't want to, but they could. Kikuchi's kind of the weakest of their starters as well. Barrios and Bassett are far from automatic. Bassett's been hot recently, so he's a threat, especially in in a game 3, he could be pretty good. I think Barrios is someone we can get to. He hasn't had an amazing season. He's very up and down season. He's definitely someone we can get to. I really don't want to face Gosman. Gosman's very, very good. He's been very good all season. Great strikeout stuff. Just can be very dominant on the mound when he's in the zone. I would really love to force Toronto to use him tomorrow and not have to see him in this series. Because if we don't see him, then we probably are going to see Kikuchi instead. And I would much rather see Kikuchi than see Gosman. I think Yanni didn't have any problem seeing Kikuchi yesterday, so I think that I wouldn't mind Yanni seeing Kikuchi a couple more times. When you move from the starting pitching to the bullpen, their bullpen has been pretty strong. They definitely have some weak spots in the bullpen, but the strength of their bullpen is their closer. Jordan Romano has had a really nice season for them. Let me pull up his stats. He on the season has he is where is he? I lost it. He is currently leading their bullpen with a 1.2 WAR, F-WAR. He has pitched 58 innings, which is not a lot of innings for a closer. So he kind of is still pretty fresh. He has the highest K rate on the team, as you'd expect from the closer. The walk rate is where we can kind of get to him. We're going to see a lot of him. We're probably going to see him in every game we play him. He will walk guys. We've seen that even in the games we played against him so far. So even though he's been very good for them, I don't know that him coming into the game is necessarily the end of the game for them, because he will walk guys. He is not really going to give up home runs, but he will put guys on base. And if you put guys on base, bad things can happen. And so as the Rays, as they look, to do some damage against some of these guys, almost every single person on their team has a walk per 9 above 2. So they will walk guys. And some of their other starters have kind of low strikeout rates, like Barrios, Kikuchi, Bassett. Their strikeout rates are not amazing, and they will walk guys. So one of the keys I think for Rays hitters is be patient. Don't swing at everything. Don't be so aggressive, because they're gonna walk you if you let them. They all have some pretty nasty pitches, and they can get you. And they can also force weak contact, which is what they do a lot of. It's a lot of what they do, especially Bassett and Barrios. They're going to force you into weak contact. Gosman is going to strike you out, but Barrios and Bassett are going to force you into weak contact, and that's how they're going to succeed. Don't allow them to do that. Be patient. Make them pitch to you. Make them throw you good pitches. And if they don't, let them walk you, because they absolutely will. The rest of their bullpen is, like I said, it's pretty good. They have some guys who are having some good seasons. Tim Meza is the other guy that probably we're going to see a lot of. in this postseason. He's been very good for them. The big thing for Meza is he just is not going to give up any home runs. If you're going to score against him, it's going to have to be via, getting guys on base with walks or hits. He has a .18 home run per 9 for the season for them, which is an insane. Like he's not giving up.
Yeah.
He's just not giving up home runs, period. He's not giving them up. So you're going to have to beat him other ways. You're not going to beat him with the long ball. So he's the other guy we're probably going to see a lot of. Swanson is another guy you're going to see a lot of this series probably. And mostly, well, I guess we'll see some Trevor Richards probably. Chad Green has also been out there a little bit for them. He's kind of coming off of injury. He has been very good in the past, and they're hoping he can get back to that form. He's been kind of so-so for them so far. He has great strikeout stuff. He's got great stuff, but he will walk guys, and he is susceptible to getting hit pretty hard. The other reason Meza is a bit of a threat is because he's also a lefty. He's one of their only lefties in the pen. They're very right-handed in their bullpen, but Meza is definitely a weapon they're gonna use when they, as the Rays will probably put out as many left-handed batters as they can against the Blue Jays because their starters are very right-handed. Meza is going to be a weapon to force switches and force a move potentially for a pinch hitter to then potentially set up some of their other bullpen guys or a guy like Jordan Romano to come in and close to then get favorable matchups because he's gotten the lefties out of the game. There's going to be some cat and mouse. I think he's definitely a weapon for them. We'll have to see how the Rays handle that. If they're going to be willing to sacrifice, the one inning that Mays is in for, whatever they're going to have to deal with later in the game if they're trying to, get pitch hit opportunities. It'll be interesting to see how the Rays decide to play that. Beyond that, when you look at kind of the keys to victory, jumping on the starters early is going to be a big part of that. And again, a big part of that, get their pitch counts up. Make them throw you strikes. Let them walk you if they're not throwing it in the zone, because they will walk you. Let them walk you. Don't let Springer, Belt, and Vladdy beat you. You got it. It's easy to say, hard to do, but those are the big three that you have to be watching out for. And please stop pitching Bo Bichette away. Said it before, I'll say it again. I don't want to see it. I just don't want to see it. Just don't do it. The team as a whole struggles with lefty batters. For the Blue Jays do. They have a pretty bad. They allowed I believe it was a 110 OPS plus to left-handed batters this season. So we're gonna the struggle for the Rays is we're gonna have a whole lot of lefties right now. I think you're gonna see Aranda a lot, which is kind of a sneak preview of what the roster may look like. I think you're going to see Aranda. I think you're going to see a lot of Josh Lowe, which we should anyway, because Josh Lowe is very good. And then the key is going to be, we're either probably going to see Nuke or Tapia, probably, because you got to have some lefties against this team because they're so right-handed heavy. And if Nuke is available, we're going to see a lot of him. I really would like him to be healthy for this series because I think he could be a big weapon against these right-handed Blue Jays pitching. But if he's not available, probably going to see some Raimel Tapia, which you may not like to hear, but we're probably going to see him out there because he's a left-handed bat, and we just don't have our options are very limited when it comes to that. So that's kind of a breakdown of the Blue Jays, what we could be looking at against them. Make them walk you. Make them throw pitches. Don't let Springer, Belt, and Vladdy beat you. Stop pitching Bo away and see if the lefties could do something. What are your thoughts on all? I just gave you I just info dumped a lot of information to you. What are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I think the Blue Jays are a scary proposition just because of the way our lineup is very right-handed, but so is their pitching. Yeah. I think there's familiarity with their pitching, which is good, but that goes both ways with our pitching as well. I think a key thing is whether or not we're going to see Gosman or not. I really do. I really think if we can face Kikuchi instead of Gosman, that is a massive swing in our favor. Mm-hmm. And I think you're absolutely bang on the money with we have to play Aranda to have a lefty bat in that lineup because Josh Lowe is currently the only lock regular player who's lefty. Right. Unless you count Walls as a switch. But again, it would be unfair to expect much from Walls as a hitter in the playoffs. Right. So you've got to lean on Aranda. He's probably going to have to be your second baseman against the Blue Jays, right?
I would think so.
Yeah, I mean, it means that we're not put in the best position to succeed from a lineup construction standpoint, I think, which makes things awkward. I think they are beatable, and oftentimes they do it to themselves with their lack of command from their bullpen. If we
Yep.
can get to the starters early, like you said, if we can force them out of the game as early as possible, that volatile bullpen is the way to go. Because when the bullpen are on with that Jays team, they're really good. But when they're not on, they melt down real fast. And we can throw it back to this past weekend. The Rays had those innings where when our guys are not having it, like, I remember there was a sixth inning in every game of that Blue Jays series last weekend where we crumbled real quick and everything went wrong. The Blue Jays are just as prone to that as we are. So we've got to force the volatility by getting those starters out, like you said.
Yep.
So yeah, I think they're my least preferred playoff matchup out of the teams that could face us. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably so. I think the other thing the thing that's kind of interesting when you look at this matchup beyond just what we talked about is when you talk about familiarity, a lot of their matchups, were earlier in the season, and some of the pitchers, at least for the Rays, that were a part of those matchups, are not going to be a part of this series. They had one or two matchups against Shane, not available.
Yeah.
They had one or two matchups against Fleming, not going to be on this, probably not going to be on the roster. They had a matchup against Taj Bradley, probably not going to be starting. They'll see him, but they're not going to start. That was the big 20-1 win was against Bradley, who they're not probably going to see. And they had one. I think they've played Tyler once, and they did get him a little bit.
Yeah, that was last week.
But Eflin has pitched very well against them. I think he pitched against them twice. Has pitched very well. So, and we've seen Kikuchi a couple times. We've seen Bassett a couple times, Barrios a couple times. So some of our pitching has not been seen as much by them. I think the bullpen guys are where there's going to be some more familiarity there. And again, the Blue Jays, I think the Springer is one of my most feared hitters in the postseason across all of our potential matchups. So I would be happy to miss him and to miss Gosman. But I honestly, and this goes to kind of a bigger point that I have about this postseason overall, there is not a dominant team in the American League. There just isn't. You cannot tell me that the Orioles are going to dominate the postseason. You just can't tell me. I don't believe it. I think they're very good. I think that they could definitely go to the World Series, but I don't think they're going to be dominant when it comes to the postseason. And nobody else is dominant. The Astros are like struggling mightily. The Rangers are kind of are here and there. The Mariners are like trying to get out of a playoff spot as well. Like there's no dominant team. There's nobody who is like, punch it in. This team's probably going to the CS. They're probably going to the World Series. There is not that. In the NL, you have that. You do not have that in the American League. You do not have anybody who I'm like, I really just don't want to face them. The one team that I just 1,000,000% did not want to face in the postseason is not a part of this postseason. That's the Guardians. Because I'm so done with the Cleveland Guardians. I don't want to see them anymore. They're my least favorite team to play because their brand of baseball is like offensive to me. I don't enjoy watching it. And I definitely don't want to see it again in the postseason. That extra inning game in the second game in the wild card last year was the most brutal game of baseball I've ever watched and been like heavily invested in. It was a crime. It
gave me a headache.
It did. I think it gave everybody a headache. It was brutality. And I'm very glad we don't have to see them again. So there's nobody who is like, I'm super scared of. So then you kind of go to what you're talking about, familiarity. And is when you look at the bullpen and you look at the lineup, I think there is that familiarity. And so I would kind of agree with you. I think if we can get past Toronto, I think we'll be in pretty good shape because obviously we're familiar with Baltimore too. I honestly think the American League may come down to this series and the Baltimore series because I think the Rays are going to be okay against whoever they face in the CS. But these two series against Baltimore and Toronto are going to be very, very tough series for the Rays. So if they're going to make it all the way, which I think they will, they're going to have to go through some very, very tough series. And I think they might be even more difficult series than the CS will be if they are able to get there.
Completely agree. And the lack of room for error is also a big factor on that. I know I'm a broken record with that, but Tyler Glasnow is prone to occasionally not having his stuff. Okay. He's been known to do it. And if that happens game one, oh no, big issues ahead. Not unwinnable, but tough. And and that could happen with Savali. Savali, I know people have been frustrated with Savali. I am going to try. I still have a lot of trust in Savali. His time with the Rays is a small sample, but all the things are encouraging. But again, if he gets BABIP'd again, which is being a trend, that could be in game 3, and that's it. So a best of 3 is it just sucks. It just sucks. And you know what? I am going to be that guy. I am going to be the guy that says they need to do a thing where, sure, winning the division gives you a playoff spot, and then the 3 best non-division winners get a playoff spot. But the seeding should be based on record. The Twins should be the 6th seed.
I understand. I definitely understand where you're coming from, because it's very frustrating to watch the Twins sitting at home, just sort of sitting, watching what's happening, and they just get to hang out.
They're not going to get 90 wins.
They just get to chill, and they're probably, and I think you're right, they're probably going to get swept by whoever wins the other series. Like definitely does not seem fair. Or even whoever the teams that are getting the buys are that are not the Rays seems so much lesser, because the record is almost a 10-game difference between the Rays and everybody else in the postseason, between the Orioles and the Rays, and then it's like everybody else when it comes to record. I mean, obviously anything could happen in the postseason, but it is very frustrating to see that. And that's kind of, to me, even though while that's frustrating, I think it's kind of the beauty of baseball, and it's the beauty of the way that the sport has been played. It's the traditions that have kind of always existed in baseball are kind of what make it great. And I'm afraid that doing too much to alter that starts to dilute the sport from what makes it great. And the tradition is a big part of it. I mean, obviously we want to evolve and create new things and create new excitement. But at the same time, baseball is a sport of tradition. And there's a lot of really cool things that are a result of that tradition. And I do worry that we've already changed a lot. And the changes that we have made this season, or that I say that the baseball has made this season, are good changes, I think. But I am leery of changing it too much, because then you start to become the NBA or other sports. I'm like, I don't know. I'm kind of okay with it, even though it doesn't suit us this season. It's kind of the way baseball's always been, and I'm kind of okay with that. And I mean, would it be better for probably 99% of the seasons? Because there always needs to be one year where there's a team that's like, how is this team getting a bye? They do not deserve a bye at all. But that's just kind of baseball, and that just kind of is what it is. So I'm kind of okay with it, even though it definitely does not. It is a detriment to the Rays this season.
I say we go super traditional. We throw it back to 1910, and we have the top 2 teams of the American League just do the championship series straight
there
away.
You go.
Let's get super traditional, and let's make it so that it's people haven't figured out how to run and throw the ball at the same time yet. And what other crazy rules? You ask for a high pitch or a low pitch, because then Josh Lowe doesn't ever get a high pitch, and we'll be fine.
There you go. That's crazy to me that people you should just be like, hey, I want it here. And that was like they were okay with that. That's wild.
So let's talk about the other team that we could be potentially facing, the second most likely team that we could be facing. Currently in the 6th position, only a game back of the Blue Jays. And if they manage to, somehow stop getting trounced by the dregs of the other teams for 1 second, they could potentially get up and take the 5 seed if the Blue Jays lose their next 2 games, especially. So that's the Houston Astros. This is not the Houston Astros that dominated and wreaked havoc on the American League for the past 7 years or so, that were in the ALCS every single year since then, which is just a ludicrous thing. This is a team that's fighting for their lives, probably not going to take the AL West this year. It's a very strange Houston Astros team, because whenever you look at the record, you go, oh, okay, something's not clicking. And then you look deeper and you go, oh, it's actually quite hard to pinpoint what's exactly not clicking. So I'm going to do a quick guessing game with you, Zach. Out of the 9 position players that are probably going to be in the Houston Astros starting 9, how many of them have a WRC plus above 100?
Probably Jordan, probably Altuve. You know, I haven't really heard a whole lot about anybody else on the team this year. I'm gonna say there's somebody that I'm forgetting, and I'm gonna say 3.
See, that's what I would have thought too. 7.
Really?
7 of the starting 9. The 2 that aren't are Jeremy Pena, who's not having the year he did last year. He is struggling a little bit with the bat. He's only got a 96 WRC plus. For anyone that is unfamiliar with the stat, I realize that we keep saying it. WRC plus is a complicated stat, but it's a quick way to go compared to the rest of the league and compared to the competition they are facing. How good are they doing compared to league average? So if you have a WRC plus of 100, that means you are a league average hitter. And if you have anything below, that means you are worse. And anything above that is better, essentially. And like say 150 WRC plus is you're 50% better than the average hitter. So Jeremy Pena, a little bit below average, 96. And the other one is Jose Abreu, who has struggled since going to Houston. There was a lot of hubbub about him not hitting his first home run for ages before he managed to get there. He's only got an 84 WRC plus. He has really struggled since leaving the White Sox. But I'm going to tell you the other of the starting 9. So Jordan is obviously Jordan Alvarez, the Houston Astros best hitter. He is a terrifying bat. He is currently working with a 171 WRC plus. He is insane. He's got 31 home runs, 97 RBIs, a 408 on base percentage, a 588 slugging. He's terrifying. He's absolutely terrifying. If there was a George Springer on the Astros, it's Jordan Alvarez. Absolutely terrifying. He will most likely get the starts in left field. Despite being a not very great fielder, he'll be out there. Jose Altuve is having a career resurgence. He's got a 158 WRC plus. He's doing really well this year. 17 home runs, 315 average. Barely walking a lot. He's walking a lot. He's got a great BABIP, 352. So he's just like the balls are coming into play for him. Really good. A very Altuve-esque season from when he was in his prime. Kyle Tucker is a name people forget about a lot, but has been quietly a really good hitter for the past 3 years. He's got a 139 WRC plus, slugging 513, which is really, really impressive. He's probably going to hit 30 home runs this year. He's on 29, 111 RBIs, but also he is 1 home run and 1 stolen base away from being a 30-30 player. He's got 29 home runs, 29 stolen bases. Nobody knows about him. He's going to be the right fielder, and he's awesome, and he deserves a lot of love. Now, here's a name that as number 4 on the WRC plus train, the center fielder, Chas McCormick. You will be forgiven if you don't know who Chas McCormick is. He's got a 137 WRC plus. He is currently slugging 499. He currently has 22 home runs. He has 19 stolen bases. He is batting 278. He is really good. Like, if you had 9 Chas McCormicks on your team, you'd be doing really well. He's a really good fielder as well, and has a 4-WAR season. So, like, wow, Chas McCormick, who knew? He'll be the center fielder. Here's another name that you might not know. Yena Diaz. Yena Diaz, he is the catcher. He will split time with Martin Maldonado, but I'm currently listing him as probably the most likely starting catcher. 128 WRC plus, doesn't walk at all. He has a 3% walk rate, but 23 RBI, 23 home runs, and has a 128 WRC plus. Kind of a so-so defender. So imagine him to start games, or if Verlander really wants to throw to Maldonado, maybe he'll be that guy. But other than that, Yena Diaz. Number 6 on the guys who have an above average WRC plus, Alex Bregman, of course.
I should have thought of Bregman. I don't know what I was doing there. I should have thought of Bregman.
He's 4 RBI short of 100, and he's also doing really, really well. He's got an on-base percentage of 363, a slugging of 432. He's really good as well. And then Michael Brantley, who's been out most of the year.
Right, he is back.
But he is back and will be most likely the DH for them. Doesn't walk, but doesn't strike out either. He's very much a bat-to-ball guy, will always put the ball in play. And he's, in a very limited sample size in just 14 games, currently hitting 103 with his WRC+. So, yeah, insane lineup, actually. Very terrifying lineup. 1 through 9, all very scary. When your worst hitter is Jose Abreu, that's pretty good. That's pretty terrifying. The thing is, they are quite right-handed. That's the thing to bear in mind, just like the Rays. Only Altuve and Alvarez at the top of the... No, not Altuve, just Alvarez. Just Alvarez and Tucker are left-handed, which are 2 of their scariest hitters, but if you can work around them, you'll be doing okay. So it's a scary lineup, and it's quite hard to pick your person to work around apart from Alvarez. But the thing is, these guys don't match up well with what the Rays try and do. The Rays have quite a strikeout-heavy staff, particularly with Glasnow and now Savali, and most of their bullpen try to strike you out. The Astros, as a team, have a 19.8 strikeout percentage, which is the third lowest in all of baseball, behind only the Nationals and those Guardians. They will put the ball in play. Yeah, the Nationals, I know. They will put the ball in play a ton. So you've got to put out your good fielders for that. So if you can have if Siri's back, he might be really useful to have out in the field. Don't have Harold in the field for those games, especially with those crazy Crawford boxes. Oh, wait, no, we're playing at home. Never mind. But still, don't have Harold in the field regardless. Pitching-wise, this is where it's gone a bit wrong. Their rotation's kind of been so-so. They've not been awful, but they've not been great, which is not what we expect from them. Framber Valdez has been good. And then Christian Javier has under-delivered, which is a shame because he was coming on really nicely last year and he's kind of not been so great this year. But now they've reacquired Justin Verlander, and he's been decent, but not like prime Verlander. He's been fine. He's been like what you would expect from Justin Verlander, where he's good, but he does, when you make contact on him, you hit it hard. And that's kind of been a theme for this Astros rotation, is that you do 2 things. You either slam the ball into the ground or you hit a home run, and there is no in between. They have some of the worst quality of contact metrics. Their hard hit percentage is actually really down there. They're kind of in the bottom 10 in baseball in the quality of contact given up. So people hit the ball hard off these guys. It's just whether or not it's in the air or on the ground. So Yandy needs to be really feeling himself and be trying to lift that ball wherever he can to get the highest effect. So that's interesting. Where the Astros' biggest strength is, I believe, is their bullpen. They have some really good bullpen arms. The big one is Hector Neris, who's been their closer this year, and he has been playing out of his mind. I've got an insane stat about Hector Neris, and I'm not even talking about the fact that he's got a 176 ERA plus or a 10 plus K.9 or that anything like that. I'm going to tell you that Hector Neris's left on base percentage, the amount of runners that get on, are either inherited or that he puts on himself, he leaves 90.3% of his runners on base.
Wow.
Which is definitely not sustainable, but he has, whenever there's trouble, he's getting out of it. He is the ultimate fireman, playing out of his mind. I know he was kind of volatile in Philly, and he is walking 4/9 still, but he's getting out of his own jams.
Probably explains the all the people he's putting on base to get to that percentage, but he's not letting them get home.
So Hector Neris is awesome. Brian Abreu is also an amazing arm for them. He's got an ERA sub-2. He's striking out 12/9. So he's a scary arm to look out. Ryan Presley is always really good. He's got that wipeout curve. He hasn't played a full season for them, but he's been really, really good. Phil Maton, also really good out of the bullpen. Again, loads of right-handers. Not many left-handers. So again, we're going to have to stack up on lefty bats because again, the rotation and the bullpen is all kind of right-handers. So that's kind of the skinny on the team. They do play good defense, particularly if they're lining up with Maldonado behind the plate. Altuve and Pena are good fielders. Chas McCormick's a good fielder. Bregman's a good fielder.
Bregman's very good.
So they play good defense. They're a great team that it just hasn't quite worked for them this season. I think they probably should have won the West, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
And it's just weird talking about everything that I've talked about to say that they're fighting for their lives for a playoff spot on the last weekend of the season. They're a scary team that I think do not give them the opportunity to cook, because I think a longer series would benefit them. Another guy to just keep in the back of your mind is a guy called Mauricio Dubon. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yeah, I have heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's also just like a good fielder, utility guy that plays up the middle infield now and then, and he's quite fast as well. So just keep an eye on him being used as well.
He's probably a pinch hit guy, pinch runner guy. Yeah.
Yeah. He's also, a guy that has a good track record. This Astros team confused me because they're really good, but also really like prone to being hit hard, which I think favors the Rays plate approach, really.
Yeah.
I don't really want to face these guys either, but I think if there's a time to face them, it's now, because they're rolling out Verlander tonight. So we're probably going to face Framber Valdez, Christian Javier, and then maybe if they're willing to give Verlander on short rest. But if not,
if you even get there,
if you even get to a game 3, if not, it might be like Hunter Brown or Framber,
right, who's not been that good.
No. So, and it's also worth noting that JP France will not be available for that series. He's probably gone day to day. But they're a pretty healthy Astros team otherwise. So
yeah, they're offensively pretty healthy. They haven't really, because Jordan was hurt for the start of the year because he didn't play a full season for them. But once he's been back, he's been excellent. So yeah, I think your analysis is really good.
Same with Brantley, they've just got him back.
Yeah. I think your analysis is really good that playing them in the wild card would be the best time to play them. Because if they can kind of get on, if they get through the wild card and get on a roll, that's when you probably don't want to deal with them. And being able to get to them, their starting pitching, it would be such a big deal, especially in a short series. Because if you get to their starters, you really put them in a tough spot for their bullpen. And I think that's probably what makes them vulnerable in a short series is if they can be got, their starters can be got, then they start to become very vulnerable. So that's kind of why they've been so good in previous years. Is it was Verlander, before that it was Cole. There were guys that you just could not get to. And they force you to use all your pinch hitters, do whatever you could to try to get to them, and you just couldn't. And now they've kind of lost that. They don't really have a guy who is like, when he steps on the mound, you're done. Like they don't really have that lockdown starter right now. So it'd be interesting to see what a series against them would look like in the wild card round. Although we're probably going to face the Blue Jays. But yeah, I think. And there's a good chance that if they get through the wild card round, the Astros do. There's a pretty good chance we're gonna see them in the CS as well.
I like them if they end up facing the Twins. I like that matchup.
Yeah,
and I like them against Texas as well.
Yeah.
So, don't let them cook. But at all costs, do not let them cook. Turn the oven on.
Get on the grill. Yeah. Houston and Toronto are by far the most likely matchups. Then after that, you look at Texas and the Mariners. For the Mariners, the chances of us playing them are like negligible, especially now. When I started doing my analysis, and then there was still kind of an off chance. Now it's almost completely negligible that we're probably just probably not going to play them. The way that things are shaking out. The big thing, if we do end up playing against them, the biggest things to look out for are obviously Julio, JP Crawford, and Teoscar Hernandez are having really, really good seasons. Don't let those guys beat you. The strength of the Mariners pitching staff is not the starting pitching. Their starters have been a little bit gettable all season long. There's not a one of them that has a sub-3 ERA. Luis Castillo is their best pitcher. He's the one you got to get to, but the rest of them are just kind of okay. They're above average, but they're not nothing amazing. The bullpen is pretty good. Paul Sewald's very, very good lockdown for them in the bullpen. And then they have some other guys like Gabe Spear, Flexen. If he may be hurt. Flexen might be hurt. I'm not 100% sure on that. Marco Gonzalez has been very good for them. He's having a little bit of a down year this year. So I think they're kind of gettable. Their lineup is kind of weak after you get through Julio, JP Crawford, and Teoscar. Their lineup is not overly impressive. They're pretty gettable. They have very few. Let's see, what do they have? They have 1, 2, 3, 4 guys with a WRC plus above 100. The rest of them are all kind of middling or right around 100. Kellenic has really cooled off. Cal Raleigh is pretty good. Mike Ford has been pretty good but he's had very limited. He's had kind of limited at bats recently. I'm not overly concerned about the Mariners. If we do play them, I think we take care of business to them. Their pitching we could take advantage of. We just beat them in a series, so I'm pretty confident in our matchup against them. What about Texas?
Yeah, quick word on Texas. Lineup good, pitching bad. They like their lineup is really good. That middle infield that they spent, almost $1 billion on, turns out really good. Corey Seager is incredible. He's in the MVP discussion. He's been a former World Series MVP. We know all about that.
We do.
Marcus Semien is also awesome. Adolis Garcia is having a really good season as well. He's got like 39 home runs. Where did that happen? Right. He is crushing the ball. He could have 40 home runs. He's driven in 107. He's awesome. And him and Randy's bromance is also something very adorable. And then everyone. Josh Young is having a great year. Nate Lowe's really good. Jonah Heim's really good. Everyone in that lineup's really good. But the pitching is not so good. Yeah. Max Scherzer, unsure if he's going to be playoff eligible or not. He's going to be on the IL till the end of the regular season. He's been throwing some bullpens. He might be available for the wild card series. If not, he would be available for a DS. Which looks more than likely for the Rangers, which would be a big boost to them if they can get him back. They've also recently lost John Gray as well. He's gone down for them. He's just been put on the IL, which is a shame for them. And then that leaves that their kind of main rotation would be a game 1 Jordan Montgomery start, who has been good. But not, amazing. Nate Eovaldi would then be game 2, who's again good, but fine. I don't know if you'd want him at this stage of his career with a playoff berth on the line. Dane Dunning is starting to get into the dregs. Andrew Heaney's got the start for them yesterday. Martin Perez. And then the bullpen has had a pretty historic meltdown. There's some names, sure, in that bullpen. Chapman, but he's really struggled since coming over there. Leclerc can be good at times, but can also completely melt down. Same with Will Smith. Same with Brock Burke, Josh Spores. Yeah, it's just loads of guys that could give you an inning, but there's no one that's like, oh yes, they're in the game. It's a lockdown.
Yeah.
And they're all prone to walks. There's nobody with command in that bullpen. So
good for us, or good for whoever's playing them.
You just got to, if you're Texas, you got to pray that you put enough runs on the board to outlast what the bullpen's going to give up.
And that's kind of been their MO all season. It feels like it's just we're just going to score a lot and then hope that it works out. And unfortunately, they're in a battle now for the division, so it hasn't worked out quite the way they would like it to. I think obviously losing DeGrom was just, that's a tough way to start the year to lose DeGrom so early in the season. Really brutal. They're probably going to win the division. It looks like it's kind of what it looks like right now. So we would probably
I think a win clinches it.
Yeah, so they're probably going to win the division. So we maybe see in the CS. I'd be pretty okay with that matchup, just because I think that if the Rays lineup, if we get to the CS, I would think it's because the lineup has sort of caught fire, and I think that would be a good, a weak starting pitching staff is something that the Rays could feast on. So I think that would be a pretty, I'd be pretty content with that matchup for the CS if we get that far.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that kind of wraps up kind of just some stuff we talked a lot, but that kind of gives you an idea of what we're looking at for our matchups for the playoffs, not the World Series yet, maybe soon. The last thing we want to talk about today is sort of the roster that we could be looking at for the postseason. And there's a bit of discussion to be had here, mostly because of some injuries to some guys. I'm going to give you my 26-man, and then I'll let you give me your 26-man, and then we can discuss. My 26-man roster right now, starting with the pitching, is I have Glasnow, Eflin, and Savali as starters. I have Littell, Armstrong, and Bradley as kind of your bulk guys. Middle leverage being Diekman, Kelly, Kittredge, and Davinsky I have sneaking on there. And then high leverage, you go to Poche, Bob Steve, and then Fairbanks to close. When you go to the hitting side of things, for the infield, I have Yandy, Isak, Taylor Walls, Basabe, and then I have either Caminero or Mead. I think it's probably going to end up being Mead, and then I have Aranda getting a spot just because he's a left-handed bat. And then from the catcher spot, I have Pinto and Bethancourt. Obviously, there's not really a whole lot of debate there. And then when you go to the outfield, you have Randy, Josh Lowe, Harold, Margot, and then this is where it gets kind of dependent on who's healthy. Is it's probably going to be Tapia, because we haven't heard much about Rayleigh. If Rayleigh's healthy, I want Rayleigh in there. If not, it's probably going to be Tapia.
Yeah, I'm mostly in agreement there. How would you feel about if we the only one that's kind of up for debate on the pitching side for me, I completely agree with everything except Davinsky, I think, is probably going to get the spot because he's played well. My one worry is we got Poche and Diekman as our only two lefties.
That's correct.
I can't believe I'm saying this in 2023. Should we give Jalen Beeks a playoff spot?
No, I'm just gonna say no. I'm just and like I just can't do it. I mean I don't know if any of you watched the Durham's championship game that Beeks started. That kind of told me everything I needed to know. I would rather give Fleming a spot than give Beeks a spot. And again, like whenever I talk badly about a player, keep in mind that what I'm speaking on is their quality of play relative to a championship level team. That's what I'm speaking about directly. Is not like they're bad. If we're talking about a championship level team, I don't think they should be on it right now. If you can't even start for a championship level AAA team, you probably should not be out there for an MLB championship level team. So I'm gonna give a hard pass to Beeks right now.
In agreement with you. I was just floating the idea out there.
Yeah, it's a hard pass for me.
I do worry about our lack of left-handed options, but the weird thing is, like, even if we had a healthy team, we still don't really have left-handed relievers.
Yeah, really. Not really.
We start did we start with? I guess we started with Beeks as a more primary option, and he worked his way out of that. Yeah, because we acquired Diekman midway through the season, so it's just
and Poche's kind of always been the lefty. Although he's kind of platoon neutral, but he's kind of been the lefty. If you need a lefty, he's kind of been the guy. And then Diekman was kind of acquired to help with that as well.
Where is Adam Kolarek?
I know.
We need Adam Kolarek.
Is he still playing somewhere?
That's
he
a
on the
great
White
question
Sox?
because he was like the Juan Soto facer
Yeah.
for a while.
Yeah.
Back when you could just bring in a guy for like one batter, he was like
Yeah.
the guy for that. He
Yeah.
was last seen.
See.
He played 4 games for the Mets this year.
Okay. All right. So
And
he's
was
alive
like,
somewhere.
but that was in August was his
Okay.
last game. Is he still in the minor leagues with them? I'm gonna just find that out because it's piqued my curiosity. He got traded to the Dodgers, never made it to the major league club with them this year, and then got released by the Dodgers and is currently on a minor league deal with the Braves.
Gotcha.
That was a tangent we probably didn't need. Anyway,
But still,
yeah, and then on the position player side, yeah, we've got to have Aranda in there. Did you say you want? Did you say anything about Basabe?
Yeah, I have Basabe in there.
Okay, yeah. I
have him over. I know there's some discussion on maybe Brujan. He's been starting a lot for Durham. I have Basabe in there currently over Brujan personally.
Yeah, I would rather have Basabe in there as well, and he can play shortstop, and Walls can move around if needs be.
Yeah. Somewhere out there, Ben is disagreeing with us probably, but I have Basabe in there.
And if Jose Siri is healthy, which I don't think he will be for the wild card of things, where do you put him? Who do you take a spot from?
That's where it gets tricky. Probably the Caminero Meade spot is where we lose somebody, I think, probably, because Harold could play in the infield. Oh, please no, but he could. So if he absolutely had to, probably one of them probably gets moved. And because you'd want to still have, I mean, if Siri and Rayleigh are both healthy, I want them both on the team.
Yeah.
If just Siri is healthy, maybe he's there instead of Tapia, because you probably rather have Siri than a left-handed bat, even because Tapia's not that good. But if they're both healthy, probably you lose Meade/Caminero, I would think, because I think you still need Aranda to have somebody who's left-handed in there.
Yeah, I think Meade is just edging Caminero right now, but if for me, Caminero goes crazy tonight and tomorrow, do you make the switch?
The only reason why if Caminero
hits
because
3 home runs over these next 2 games.
If he has a really good couple games and he looks hot, I might, only because he can play shortstop, and it's nice to have that extra flexibility. And he looked fine when he was out there yesterday. He looked fine. So I would maybe give him the advantage only for a defensive flexibility perspective.
Or do we keep Meade and cut Basabe in that instance?
See, that's you could have a conversation there. At the moment, I say probably not. Only because Meade hasn't shown us that much offensively. But again, if they both play well, because they're probably going to both play over these next 2 days, and Basabe's not, then I could see it. That's definitely I think it'd be a much tougher conversation if we were facing a lineup, a pitching staff with a lot more lefties. But right now, I think probably I'm going to keep Basabe, because you need people you can trust out there defensively in the late innings. You really you got to have that. So, and if somebody's getting pitch hit for between Walls and Basabe, that's probably going to happen at some point. If one of them is starting, they may get pinch hit for. So you got to have somebody else to throw out there defensively in the late innings.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I feel like you got to have them both, at least for now, until Caminero can show that he's really, really good defensively. I feel like you kind of got to have, Walls and Basabe both available.
Yeah, agree. One bit of news that's just come through the pipeline, which could speak to how the Rays are going to line up their pitching tonight and tomorrow, is Erasmo's just been DFA'd. Cooper Criswell's been called up. So thank you, Erasmo, for your service. We enjoyed having you back as a mop-up guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Criswell will get a bulk today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
Somewhere, but he won't be on the playoff roster. Let me just say,
he will not. He will not, but he probably will bulk start today or tomorrow. That's probably right. Yep.
All right. Do you have any other things you wanna talk about?
I don't think so. The obviously we're kind of waiting to see what happens with Siri and Rayleigh. We also don't have any updates on Adam that I'm aware of. No real updates there. So we're just kind of waiting to see.
The last thing I heard was Rayleigh has been taking some like swings.
Yeah, he has been.
But that's not the step before getting back into games. There's still a few more steps.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a shame.
Yeah, and it's kind of unfortunate because there's not a whole lot of places for him to go get live reps right now because the minor leagues are over pretty much. So there's not a whole lot of places for him to go get reps. So it'd be interesting to see how the Rays handle that.
And yeah, nothing from Siri, nothing from Adam.
No, yeah. So we're just kind of waiting to see. It'll be very fun to see what ends up happening. But yeah, and I mean, again, as far as what I think is going to happen over this next week, I picked before the season that the Rays were going to win the World Series. I haven't changed my mind. I think they're still going. They're going to fight. They're going to fight through these tough series, and they're going to make it happen. I think they're going to. Even though I don't like the way that they're playing right now, I do believe they can flip that switch. I do believe they have that in them, and I think we are going to see it next week.
Yeah, they're a resilient group. We have learned this. They don't let a lead get the better of them. They could blow leads and come back. They're very good when they score first. So I like they're a favorable matchup, especially at home. The Rays have been awesome at the Trop all year. The environment, the crowds are going to be super loud and crazy. Troptober has only just begun.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, they're the favorites. Obviously, there's so little room for error in a best of three, but I'm going to pick them to go through. I'm going to say, and this is my bold pick, is that it's going to go to game 3. I think Savali is going to throw 7 innings, 1 earned run, striking out 10 Blue Jays in game 3 and shut everyone up about Savali once and for all. That's what I'm going to say.
See it. I think that's a great way to end. I would love to see. I would love to see that. So if you would love to see that and love to see more of us, keep liking, keep subscribing, keep being a part of what we're building here on the RBLR Ratio and RBLR Network. Thank you everybody for listening. We are very excited to see what's going to happen here in the next week with the Rays. I am looking forward to talking with you guys on social media about how this series is going to turn out and how the postseason is going to turn out. But for now, see you guys next week. Go Rays.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.